Good afternoon, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jackson Taylor, and I direct the prison writing program at Penn America. Last year, we examined the products that are purveyed by the profiteers of the American prison industrial complex. And we have a few examples from that program. There were products including the grip system ankle restraint. We had premium Atlas toilet paper. We had the Cook's 617S Tan Flex tray. We had the transport hood. We had coveralls, disposable gowns, bouffant caps. We had mesh briefs. We had the suicide safety blanket. We had Africa's best moisturizing shampoo and conditioner. We had men's jumpsuits. And we had more featured products, including bedding, plumbing, fencing, uniforms, accounting services, food services, electricity, surveillance equipment, fencing, razor wire, and of course, guns and billy clubs. And this is a huge, huge industry. Last year, we also did a detailed analysis of the website of the Corrections Corporation of America. And we illustrated how that image from the website differed from the one in their 120-page annual report. The images on the screen behind me are from that program. And we had a wonderfully talented editor and organizer last year named Helen Hofling. And she made some very wry observations, and I just want to share a few of them with you. CCA stands for the Corrections Corporation of America, but the full name is hard to find on the website, despite the considerable volume of text published there. Then again, perhaps it is precisely because of this abundance that specific terms prove difficult to locate. While on the hunt, the casual researcher is submerged in CCA's branding mechanism, an impressive array of smiling, diverse faces in and out of uniform, dramatic tales of volunteerism, ethical assurances, value guarantees, video clips with exhilarating soundtracks, promises of meaningful careers, and outlines of comprehensive rehabilitation programming. The impression given is of a mid-sized liberal arts college or a particularly well-funded organization dedicated to public works. Helen's observations were informed by these central questions, which we are carrying forward to our program today. What is the website for? What is it intended to do? This today is a kind of walking tour through the labyrinth outskirts of this website. And we have found no clear path towards a categorical understanding of what it represents. It hosts what seem like countless pages of text, cross-referencing, modifying, and reiterating aspects put forward by the company. It's a case of dividing and multiplying. So flash forward to our group for the present, May 6th, 2017. Rebranding is an old game to mask corporate failure or ambition. And I suppose the Penn video we were just watching shows that nonprofit organizations are also now under pressure to mimic corporate identities. And lest you think we are partisan in our politics, we aren't just anti-Trump. We question every administration as writers. That's what writers are supposed to do. Question all systems of power and governance. That is our duty, to be the conscience of every moment in time on our culture's timeline. But the Corrections Corporation of America has shown it is one hungry amoeba. And it has maintained an ever more maneuverable and edgeless quality. But unlike most amoebas, this one does not want to split, but it wants to develop as a new broad category, a new genus and species, if you will. Any Latin name assigned to the new company might want to imply that while this new amoeba can still live behind bars, in an expanding parasitic mutation, it can now live outside of the prison as well, blending and blurring ever more the edges between what is inner and what is outer. Already, we've seen prison contractors affect the architecture of our schools, our civic buildings. If you aren't sure what I mean, I invite you to visit the recently renovated Amtrak bathrooms at Penn Station, and you'll see the institutional fixtures there are interchangeable with many of those found in prisons. Last summer, President Obama made an important announcement. He said that the federal government would be phasing out and no longer employ private prisons. Now, to be clear, the move came late in his administration, and it affected but a small portion of U.S. prisons, basically 13 privately run prisons housing just over 22,000 people, or about 11% of the federal prison population. Most were foreign nationals, many Mexicans, incarcerated for immigration violations. But we on the Penn Prison Writing Committee appreciated the gesture nonetheless. But the price of a share of stock of the Corrections Corporation of America fell 50% overnight. And lest any of you are shareholders, fear not, the election, with sound business timing, immediately reversed those losses, and in late February, President Trump, via his Attorney General Jeff Sessions, reinstated the use of private prisons for federal inmates, saying commercial prison operators are necessary for the correctional system's future needs. The share price of private prison companies soared. And history has shown there is a lot of money to be made on systems of slavery. So today, with its renewed federal endorsement and its new name and new brand, the company is ushering in a new era of profit. What was CCA is now known as CoreCivic. And we look today at the new image and the new company. I ask that you keep in mind a quote by Aristotle as you watch our program today. It is the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. Thank you.
Corporation of America's retired logo and name, the slash, then entering the A. Is it a weapon? Is it razor wire? Is it an eagle like the post office? So much to consider. Now as CoreCivic, wait, in case you're confused, it is not the NYC Civic Corps, nor is it the federally funded program for teens, AmeriCorps. Ah yes, here we go. The flag is a box. And the American mind is encouraged to think within that box. The flag becomes a prison. Our national colors still employed. The red horizontal bars now confined. While the blue field is an impenetrable obstacle. For those unaware of CoreCivic's prison industry, the architectural form could simply be a nod toward CC's new venture into real estate. The three-dimensionality results from two simple graphic tricks. The blue field, not quite a rectangle, slants down to the left, while the red and white stripes slant and narrow down to the right. The font is simple, utilitarian, sans serif, a subtle variation of a modern typeface such as Helvetica. Core and Civic run together, no space between, one word blue, one word red, mirroring the flag as prison image. The letter forms are repetitive. A capital C, 3 letters, another C, 3 letters, another capital C. Or is it all just capitalism? Ambiguity reigns. If you turn the box on its side, the blue trapezoid becomes the bottom of the cage.
Social responsibility. There is an image of a bald white man in the foreground in a white shirt and tie, smiling at the camera in an odd, perhaps even slightly nefarious way. In the background, a dark-haired man sits at a computer with his back to the camera. The window shades are all pulled down. Light gets in, but no one sees in or out. Prison-like in its own right. Hello. The page is written as a letter and begins in a friendly, personal way. I quote, "Since our founding in 1983, CCA has placed an emphasis on being a socially responsible organization and a strong corporate citizen. As stated in our human rights policy statement, we recognize the inherent dignity of the human person and the need to treat every individual with respect. As we have since our inception, we share the responsibility of our government partners when they entrust individuals to our care," end quote. How does a large corporation define their emphasis? While corporate social responsibility can be defined as business practices that benefit society, i.e. using recycled paper, making philanthropic donations, they can also fall under the general umbrella of social responsibility, which may or may not be done solely for the purposes of tax benefits. Further, strong corporate citizenship is defined by Investopedia as, I quote, "the social responsibility of businesses and the extent to which they meet legal, ethical, and economic responsibility as defined by shareholders," end quote. According to America's 100 Best Corporate Citizens of 2016 list by Forbes, CoreCivic does not make an appearance on that list. CoreCivic believes in giving back to our communities. The nature of giving back to the community is once again undefined. However, the second part of this sentence is clear as a bell. What does economic value, especially to government partners and investors, and building a sustainable enterprise have to do with social responsibility at all? Next are hyperlinks to the following pages. Protecting inmate and detainee rights, adding value for taxpayers, providing proven re-entry programs, improving our communities, ensuring governance with integrity, and fostering meaningful careers. The page concludes with 2 paragraphs. The first one outlining the issues surrounding corrections facilities, overcrowded facilities, costliness, and recidivism rates. CoreCivic has here defined its business model as a benefit to society. In the closing paragraph, specific mention is made of CoreCivic's employees. A specific number of employees, 16,000, quote, "from our veterans who support them at home," end quote. So vague and nebulous, and seems merely a moment to insert those words into this page to perhaps attract support of those who are inclined to support veterans and law enforcement. Next, chaplains and security officers are named, perhaps veiled language to invoke some sense of religiosity and law and order. What of the nurses, doctors, legal advocates, janitors, cooks, and other professionals? And it ends as it began, with a personal tone, but in effect saying nothing. Quote, "I invite you to learn more about the work they do every day to make CCA a great company, a great partner, and a great corporate citizen. Sincerely, Damon T. Hinninger, President and Chief Executive Officer. Perhaps the reiteration of the word great is an intentional attempt to align CoreCivic with the Make America Great Again platform of the Trump administration. After 30 years, all the, quote, problems listed by CoreCivic seem to be growing. So how and why might they be contributing to this growth? How might the policies of their, quote, government partners be contributing to this growth? One wonders what their promise was 30 years ago. Statistics suggest that they were and are hardly the solution they promised to be.
The video we're about to watch is displayed above an article about quality assurance and CoreCivic's re-entry mission. I'd like to invite your attention to two things as you watch. Usually in videos, title cards or lower thirds are used to introduce a speaker, to illuminate their title, their occupation, or their relevance to the subject matter. Here, the men and women displayed in the first 34 seconds are never named. Through editing and overlaid text, the videos suggest that this footage is from a QA conference, but all we see are men and women in suits and business casual attire smiling, nodding, speaking, and sitting around a conference table. Note how the audience Steve Connery addresses is not shown, even once.
The one thing that resonated this year with me, at least this cycle, was, CoreCivic talks about that every one of our 14,000 employees is a re-entry professional, and every customer meeting I go to, and every time we have an event like this, that becomes more and more evident. Every single facility that got up there was asked questions about their programs, what kind of programs were offered, and it didn't matter what facility it was, whether they were a detention facility or a state prison. There were a variety of programs that we were offering those inmates.
CoreCivic seeks to rebrand itself not as a company fulfilling its contract, but as a charitable force exceeding what is expected. On its website, in an internally produced article, How QA Fosters Our Reentry Mission, the objective of an inmate's successful reentry into the world is held up as an example of CoreCivic's altruism. Romantic language is invoked to describe its efforts and successes, references to the heart of the mission, the shared honor of pursuing it, and inmates' access to new worlds of possibility abound. CoreCivic does not hire corrections officers. They, I quote, flood the process with professionals of every variety. CoreCivic extols its own effusiveness through a lavish claim, promising to go beyond the standards required by the American Correctional Association. To achieve its objective, CoreCivic put together a team of quality assurance professionals. The article lists vocational instructors, chaplains, and counselors, but only to make the distinction between them and the elevated QA professionals. But in the video we just watched, the viewer is told, and I quote, every one of our 14,000 employees is a reentry professional, end quote. Do these claims mean that the men and women who work in the facilities are the ones in charge of its regulation? Do their reports affect their own jobs? If an area is found inadequate, is it not a conflict of interest to report it? Might the potential problem with self-regulation be the impossibility of objectivity? Customized audit tools are named, but never specified. The only specifics of the internal audit process included are a list of questions that the professionals asked, and I quote, randomly selected inmates, staff and inmates. The questions are as follows. What is the level of safety? What is the level of quality? How do you feel about the education programs, food services, and medical services? How would you answer these questions? And how could the answers be compiled and organized in a way that could warrant a response? The issue of comprehensive quality assurance is also compounded by the sprawling scale of assessment the team has been tasked with. How can one internal body successfully audit a range of services that include fire safety, building maintenance, health services, and finally, and again I quote, climate surveys, a seeming catch-all? What is an increment of quality assurance and how can it be measured? Is one quality assurance 1 hour of a GED course? Is one quality assurance an operating library? Is it a meal? Is it 1 meal a day, 2 or 3? Is it triple bunking in a 2-person cell? It doesn't mean anything, and since nothing cannot be measured, there can be no prospect for accountability. It is frankly no wonder CoreCivic has invented a team of heroes who might as well be the Knights of the Round Table and the facility's Camelot incarnate because the lack of concrete details render the goals totally fantastical.
Life skills training. The CCA's life skills training webpage claims that their methods are, I quote, based on research that has uncovered proven ways to change thinking patterns, end quote. Though no study or evidence is cited. What kind of data lies behind assertions like, our approach follows a tested model of delinquency avoidance, crime prevention, and cognitive rehabilitation? What tested model? The page breaks down 3 areas of focus in cognitive rehabilitation: parenting and family dynamics, budgeting and financial management, and occupational readiness. Under parenting and family dynamics rubric, CCA duly acknowledges that it can be challenging to effectively and actively parent while incarcerated. The section concludes, teaching parenting skills and developing cognitive self-change as part of a life skills may not in isolation prevent criminal behavior in the inmate, but it likely will assist the child in moving in a new direction instead of following in the parent's path. Likely here is misspelled. In the budgeting and financial management section, CCA acknowledges the critical role financial management plays in life. I quote, inmates who can prioritize and stay out of financial trouble are much more likely to be happier and more productive citizens after release, end quote. Yet according to the Prison Policy Initiative, the average inmate's wage is 93 cents an hour, while the lowest rate recorded in dollars per day for prisoners working for private companies that use prison labor was 16 cents. Finally, the occupational readiness section claims their programs teach communication skills, independent skills, anger control, and victimization.
In addition to serving 3 nutritionally balanced meals daily and providing clothing and medical services, CoreCivic offers regular access to their commissaries which serve to support the health and wellness of their inmates and detainees. These commissaries, defined as an amenity rather than a basic human necessity, are not pictured on the site's page. Instead, a zoomed-in stock photo of tangerines in a red mesh bag is used to summarize the basic idea of what a commissary is: a convenience store. According to CoreCivic, I quote, individuals have the opportunity to purchase through their own accounts a selection of beverages, light meals and snacks, over-the-counter medications, stationery, clothing, personal hygiene products, religious items, and other miscellaneous products, end quote. But where are the photos of these products on the page? Why is there only a photo that looks as if it could have been taken from Google Images? If their commissaries are like convenience stores, and if Merriam-Webster defines convenient as, quote, suited to personal comfort or to easy performance, end quote, how do tangerines fit on the page? When unpeeled, they are anything but convenient. Above all else, in the last sentence of the page, why does CoreCivic state, CCA partners with a National Corrections Commissary provider to ensure a variety of safe, high-quality products are offered? Do they truly expect the general public to believe that their commissaries sell products that are comparable to what an everyday person would find at a drugstore or convenience store?
The locations page of the CCA website documents the exact location of each one of CCA's 89 correctional centers. The page still says CCA. They haven't gotten around to changing it to CoreCivic yet. This location page will be familiar to any internet user, no different than finding the closest McDonald's or Chase Bank. The only difference is that you do not get to choose which correctional center to spend your money at. The map indicates the location of each correctional center with a red pin. There are red pins as far west as California and as far east as New Jersey. None in New York, which leads me to believe that New York prisons are run by a different corporation. The red pins seem to be mainly grouped around Texas and Florida. The map has zoom in and zoom out buttons. Although the correctional centers are only located in the United States, the map allows you to zoom out far enough to view the entire world two-dimensionally and all 5 continents. You can even zoom out far enough to see the entire world 2 and 3 times over. Below the map is an alphabetical listing of all 89 correctional centers, starting with Adams County Correctional Center in Natchez, Missouri, and ending with Willacassee County State Jail in Raymondville, Texas. At the top of the page is a photo of an unidentified correctional center at night. Tall lights illuminate short white buildings. Patchy green grass framed by brown paths. There are no people present. The picture is taken from a high vantage point, perhaps from a guard tower. The perimeter fence is barely visible in the photo.
The image, a construction site in a desert landscape, devoid of flora. It is perhaps another condo building mid-construction, but upon inspection, it becomes clear it is a series of concrete boxes stacked like a tower of terror, with only thin rectangle windows and metal doors. A pair of yellow ladders reach toward white text centered on the image, about CoreCivic.
The large picture is construction and instruments. Everything is in pure stasis. Machines and product, the facility, are surgically clean in full light. Shadows are colored, as the Impressionists taught us that they truly are. Harmony in blue and yellow could be the title.
Beneath the banner, in red, are the words, "Governments at all levels face the challenges of aging or inadequate facilities. No specific nation nor form of government is stated. Democracy, oligarchy, autocracy, one can only assume." Immediately following this is the single sentence in bold, quote, "We provide the solution," end quote. One solution to the various challenges of the various levels of the unspecified governments. The word partner appears 5 times, emphasizing the desire for marriage between these disparate sectors.
Now we're talking about the smaller photograph. I don't know whether you can stop. That's good. The installation is installed in an ideally antiseptic location, a desert. The desert contains a highway with 2 cars. So mankind has been here and has found a way to skip it. Behind the facility, mountains. Mountains create deserts, as we know. Now they maintain their sense of distant, eternal power. Comforting, really.
The word facility appears 5 times in a text of only 11 sentences. The word prison appears 0 times. One definition of facility found in the New Oxford American Dictionary is an option or service that gives the opportunity to do or benefit from something. Which begs the question, who benefits from this marriage? The word benefit appears once in the text. Quote, the team at CoreCivic has the benefit of more than 3 decades of experience designing, building, financing, and maintaining specialized federal, state, and local government facilities, end quote.
Quite a contrast between facility and desert. The facility is white, geometric, pierced repeatedly and with inexorable regularity by slits that may be windows. The sand, here barren, is marked by ridges above patches of darker brown. What are these ridges? One girds the facility like a road or a moat. The other, more grounded, is an X. But shift your point of view slightly and it becomes a cross. Either way you read it, it works.
The unassuming buildings are surrounded by high fencing and lengthy light poles. No entry nor exit is visible. There are 2 roads that draw the eye towards the setting sun, which casts a near ethereal glow on the stark and barren landscape. There are 2 subheadings in the bottom right of the page, who we are and what we do. The word facilities does not appear for the first time in the what we do section. Instead, the word assets is used twice in that single paragraph.
And the sun, shedding rosy fire on the natural bleakness. Is it rising or setting? Probably rising for the full service real estate group, and setting for its sanitized, regularly pierced prisoners, invisible and unnamed even by a common noun.
Under who we are, the phrases real estate and cost-effective appear twice, once in each of the 2 sentences. To be clear, what's being discussed here is cheap property. Oddly, CoreCivic, in existence for less than a year, boasts a history of delivering and maintaining facilities since 1983.
CoreCivic. The branding itself is polarizing, like core curriculum, core values. Directly below is a banner image of an office, a facility built to befit modernity with a red awning, cinder block walls, and a slate gray sky, a snapshot of industry. There is no time to waste as the key benefits of partnering with CoreCivic are listed. Cutting-edge efficient design, aggressive construction schedule, low cost per bed, and best-in-class owner services. For a moment there, you would think you're being sold a luxury mid-sized sedan and not building prisons. The word prison makes no appearance, but it is euphemized as facility. CoreCivic assures you the facility of your dreams too could be as impersonal, clinical, and bleak as the one in the picture. The construction schedule is militia-like, aggressive, and time-driven. I quote, "Time is of the essence. These facilities are essential to our government partners. Even a short delay can be catastrophic for the agencies relying on the delivery schedule," end quote. The catastrophe CoreCivic is referring to is elusive, but building a prison of your dreams is possibly numbers-driven. I'll even give the cities their quote by multiplying the cost per bed by the numbers of bed in the construction schedule of aggression. San Diego's prison building quote is $108,916,000. Hartsville prison building quote is $132,704,000. CoreCivic will take care of the prisons, rest assured, in case of those catastrophic failures, referred to twice in the same paragraph. Their example, throw $62 million into repairs and maintenance. But why do brand new prisons need repair and maintenance? The language switches from example into case study. Note the singular case study. They are conserving water, lowering utility bills, insured and inspected regularly, and most importantly, giving back to the community in property taxes. You know, property taxes collected by the same local or federal governing body that partnered with CoreCivic in the first place.
Looking for a career? What about an opportunity? An experience for a lifetime? Then join us at CCA. The webpage banner consists of a woman in a white uniform wearing a pearl earring. Behind her is a baby blue sky with a mixture of clouds. She demonstrates her professionalism with a smile that spells security. The career links descriptions are listed as professional, medical, provider careers, and TransCore careers. The folders are job search, my job page, search criteria, and candidate profile. Quote, take a few minutes to create or modify your employment profile and to specify your preferred working criteria for future openings matching your interests, end quote. One job listing asks for an academic instructor in Lake City, Florida. They are asking for at least a bachelor's degree. The criteria, the academic instructor provides information in basic education subjects, maintains a positive learning environment, adopting secure classroom management practices, and develops level-appropriate lesson plans. Schedule is full-time. Additionally, CCA has professional, medical, and dental employment opportunities. Quote, CMA and CDM as providers have the opportunity to balance professional and personal obligations. In addition, our correctional providers enjoy excellent compensation, a secure workplace environment, and specialized training. This is the ultimate opportunity with ultimate rewards. Have no medical or educational background? What about TransCore America, LLC? Since 1990, TransCore has been the nation's leading provider of prisoner and detainee transportation services to federal, state, and local governments. They believe, and I quote, sharing, inspiring, and helping one another every day. What about TransCore America, LLC? Since 1990, TransCore has been the nation's leading provider of prisoner and detainee transportation services and to federal, state, and local governments. As I said, they do believe in sharing, inspiring, and helping one another. But what if there are other types of opportunities. What about signing on as a prisoner transportation officer yields $1,000 sign-on bonus? If you want a $2,000 sign-on bonus, then go to the website and look for Northeast Ohio Correctional Center on their webpage. Thank you.
Deep in the labyrinth that is the CCA website is the library resources page. It consists of 3 small paragraphs and 1 photo. Far less content than the other pages detailing stock market value and investing opportunities. The first sentence of the page states, just as there are living quarters, classrooms, medical facilities, cafeterias in all CCA facilities, there are also libraries, reiterating to potential shareholders what every CCA facility offers. Not mentioned, though, are other CCA staples such as body scanners and solitary confinement pods. The first sentence of the second paragraph declares, correctional libraries satisfy a fundamental recreational need for offenders. The verb choice of this bold claim suggests that offenders, no matter who they are or what their specific recreational need might be, will apparently find satisfaction in the walls of a CCA library. The penultimate sentence of the page asserts, trained professionals help those in our care obtain the allowed materials they may seek. Those in our care, a phrase that takes the place of offenders, is chilling, as is allowed materials. What exactly are these allowed materials? What materials are not allowed? The accompanying photo depicts a man in the care of CCA, wearing glasses similar to the ones on my face, using a typewriter, presumably making use of allowed materials. There is no mention of ways to donate books and allowed materials to support his work.
During one's darkest period, faith can inspire man and woman past the sea of doubt. Some inmates spend majority of their time in prison attempting to restore their lives. One of the few outlets inmates have is practicing faith. CoreCivic is supported by 2,700 volunteers who help inmates establish their lives before returning back to the free world. A volunteer named Charles Dodd travels from the comfort of his home in Alabama to Nashville to lead a faith service for female inmates at CoreCivic's Metro facility. It doesn't state if Mr. Dodd seeks financial gain for his service, but it does state Mr. Dodd sees it as his duty to help those who are confined in a mental and physical captivity that could break the strongest human being. And I quote, "I just work really well with the staff there, and I just really like doing the Lord's work," end quote. Mr. Dodd provides a vital service to the CCA administration, but isn't compensated. One would assume the CCA administration identifies religion as a service that doesn't need compensation because of the humane message Christian religion contains. Heal those who are in need, and God shall reward your gracious acts. After reading, volunteer goes the extra mile to help inmates practice their faith. On the CCA website, a compassionate reader may think Dodd is committing one of the most sincere acts known to man. While one may ask, why highlight a clerical person who is sharing faith with prisoners in need of hope, instead of shedding light on former inmates that received the faith-based guidance? Perhaps a licensed ordained minister is a cleaner representation to put forth on the CCA website. Many of them get out and turn their lives around, like the 2 who volunteer with me now. We even have some that go to become ministers themselves, stated Dodd. A question could be posed to CCA. Why mention these nameless men who've adopted faith as their rightful duty once they parted ways with the prison? Is it Dodd's responsibility to highlight their names as CoreCivic has done for him? CoreCivic's emphasis on implementing a Christian faith center around America's religion, Christianity. One would be led to believe Americans' religion could restore an ex-convict and lead them onto a righteous path. A fact that cannot be refuted by those who read the CCA website. Charles Dodd is a man of God, religion, and faith. Although his section in this website may be perceived as a dedication page, Dodd has spent decades helping others with their faith, which supports his praise.
Why is important information always difficult to find? Often it's buried under a less than intuitive heading, or printed in such small font, you wonder if lens crafters have stock in legalese. Worse, however, is when you have to scroll to the end of a never-ending web page. Correction Corporation of America, CCA, does not want you to do this anymore. Finally, someone gets it. Rebranded as CoreCivic, the new crisp white website presents important information roughly on one screen page and directs you to very important information through simple blue boxes with appropriate text. Essentially buttons you click. At the left, there's Contact Us. Maybe later. At the right, News. Already know some of this group. And in the center, Investors. Who and how? Of course, I click on Investors. Rather than continuing to another user-friendly CoreCivic webpage, I'm led to CCA's Investors webpage. As with most websites, the left-hand margin displays heading of various pages and subpages for easy navigation. Dividend and corporate actions, SEC filings, insider transactions. What and why? I had to ask Google to explain these headings, though the data displayed on these pages through charts, spreadsheets, and tables couldn't help me answer how investors invest in CCA CoreCivic. But perhaps I could answer my other question, who are these investors? Under another more self-explanatory heading. Only problem? My remaining day and their remaining 21 web pages, which often link to other attachments. Right now, as CCA completes their rebranding, who knows when? Clicking Investors on CoreCivic's homepage routes to a previous webpage with 21 pages which have linked to other documents, which also have links to other documents. I ended up digging, and I have to wonder how much more.
CoreCivic's most recent political activity and lobbying report. Transparency is the name of this report's game, according to the introduction. CoreCivic, the company's new and thoroughly misleading of the people sounding name, believes it is, and I quote, the right thing to do for our business, our partners, and our shareholders to educate federal, state, and local officials on the benefits of partnership corrections. Clearly, the right thing to do for the men and women in prison is not a consideration. The report makes the statement many times that CoreCivic is not paying off politicians to make any policies or enact any legislation that would have anything to do with prisoners' length of stay or reasons for their imprisonment. The report goes on to say that CoreCivic will make political contributions wherever management feels they are needed, and in the case of jurisdictions where corporate contributions are prohibited, the company will get around these sticky districts by making payments through its political action committee. All payments/contributions will be made, and I quote, subject to robust oversight. However, this oversight is to be robustly made only by CoreCivic's own top management, its CEO or VP for Partnership Relations, and its General Counsel. The report shows that CoreCivic made contributions in 2015 to federal candidates, parties, and committees in the amount of $119,200. to primarily Republican state candidates, parties, and committees in the amount of $303,400, and to 527 political organizations, most of which are PACs and super PACs with no upper giving limit, in the amount of $359,100, for a grand total of $662,000 paid out in 2015. With regard to government relations activities, CoreCivic focuses on government actions that impact privately owned prisons and detention facilities, as well as residential re-entry centers. Their advocacy consists not of any rehabilitative or educational offerings, but of, and again I quote, innovative, cost-saving government real estate solutions through our CoreCivic Properties business offerings. This section repeats that there is no lobbying on behalf of the men and women in prison, an indication of how seriously the company takes its disclosures reporting, which is, of course, in line with the Honest Leadership and Open Government Act of 2007, is that in this section's first sentence, the verb is in the wrong tense. In the second sentence, the word government is misspelled. And in the third, the verb lobby is used with the preposition on instead of for or against. There is also the mystery of where the company's policies and procedures are addressed. According to the report, they are addressed in CoreCivic's missing word, blank, of ethics and business conduct, perhaps a trick to see if we are paying attention. The last line of the report reads, "This report has not been audited and the company undertakes no obligation to issue any updates or corrections." Well, obviously for the latter, there is absolutely no correcting going on as far as any eye can see.
One only has to turn to a corporation's annual report to discover that economic opportunity is the mitigation of risk and the generalization of purpose. Expressed within this dense document, published by law, are the anxieties that compel profiteers to change their name, rebrand their image, revise their history, reword their biography, and refine their promise. In the case of CoreCivic, these anxieties are so explicitly articulated that we need not to rely upon our judicious decryption to understand what this company is, in contrast to what it seems to be. All we need is to spend but a few minutes inside this abundant text. On page 33, there is a warning. Dear fellow shareholder, the demand of our facilities and services could be adversely affected by the relaxation of enforcement efforts, leniency in conviction or parole standards and sentencing practices, or the decriminalization of certain activities that are currently prescribed by criminal laws. Any changes with respect to drugs and controlled substance or illegal immigration could affect the number of persons arrested, convicted, and sentenced, thereby potentially reducing demand for correctional facilities to house them. Immigration reform laws are currently a focus for legislators and politicians at the federal, state, and local level. Legislation has also been proposed in numerous jurisdictions that could lower minimum sentences for some nonviolent crimes and make more inmates eligible for early release based on good behavior. We are dependent upon the government agencies with which we have contracts to provide offenders for facilities we operate. The movement towards the privatization of correctional and detention facilities has encountered resistance. In the past, legislation has been proposed in the United States Congress to prohibit the federal government from entering into contracts with private prison operators and to eliminate state and local contracts for privately run prisons. Such legislation runs contrary to our primary business purpose, and if passed, would have a material adverse impact on our business. Moreover, the belief or market perception that such legislation could be passed could have a negative impact on our stock price. I know our subject has, at various points this afternoon, presented irresistible opportunities for wit. But I assure you that what you have just heard was not one of them. These concerns appear verbatim in CoreCivic's annual report, leaving no doubt as to what its private motives are and how it strategizes to conceal them. What is a brand, after all, but an ideological veil that appropriates a value system in order to disguise its antithesis? As we have seen today, CoreCivic, the brand, would like us to believe that CoreCivic, the business, is no longer a prison and is no longer private. That at its core, it is a civic service with scale and experience, not merely partners of government, but part of government, fiercely devoted to reducing recidivism and expanding re-entry programs. But make no mistake, there is a difference between expansion and progress. CoreCivic, the business, will suffer if such re-entry programs succeed. Might this explain why, in hundreds of pages of annual reports, in links upon links of website, in charts upon charts of numbers, there is no data on recidivism rates, despite the promise that every dollar invested in re-entry will be a dollar proven to reduce recidivism? Certainly the shareholder does not want to see evidence that the market of its investment is shrinking. But is it more likely that there is no evidence to report? Is it possible that these programs are not designed to produce results, but merely to promise them? In its list of 2016 achievements for offender re-entry and rehabilitation services, CoreCivic makes vague and scarce reference to any concrete success. The La Palma Correctional Center awarded 964 vocational certificates. The Crowley County Correctional Facility led the Colorado State system in GED completions. The Wheeler Correctional Facility led the Georgia State system in GED completions. And the Northwest New Mexico Correctional Facility is remissioning as a program-intensive re-entry facility. What does it mean to award 964 vocational certificates, or to lead a state system in GED completions, particularly when the number of completions is not considered an achievement worthy of mention? And is there no difference between stating a mission and fulfilling it? Perhaps not, if such a mission runs contrary to the business model, if behind the promises of preparing inmates for successful release is a profit wholly contingent on the failure of those promises. If one spends enough time in any annual report, one is bound to find a prophecy. Last year's report forecasted the rebranding of CC that we have observed today. Though CoreCivic was not yet a name, already at work was a formula that inverted CCA's true identity to appear not a corporation exploiting a social problem, but a public service alleviating a social problem. Already did the imagery of solar panels and LEED certifications tell us of CCA's environmental responsibility, of its cleaner, cheaper, newer, safer methods for powering its facilities and empowering those within them. It might have only been a matter of time before CCA dropped corrections and corporation from its name and turned America into its logo, before it evolved from specializing to diversifying. For a specialist can't obfuscate its identity as easily as a generalist can, nor can it attract a broad clientele. But a diversified government solutions company is one that can expand further into the ever more complex prison industry, while making us think it's moving further out of the prison industrial complex. Diversified is a word that conjures up no mental picture, and therefore, if only for a split second, makes us forget that CC is CCA, and CCA is a private prison. The prophecy in this year's annual report is quietly mentioned. It appears on the final page, in almost the final paragraph of the CEO's letter to the company's shareholders. But it unequivocally projects the next phase of CoreCivic's expansion. Here's a quote. More local jurisdictions are struggling to find room in their budgets to consolidate or replace their aging jails, courthouses, police stations, and fire stations, among many other properties in which essential government services are provided. The CoreCivic brand and our 3 distinct business offerings can bring solutions to all of these complex challenges. If CoreCivic is indeed contracted to solve these complex challenges, will we by then have already forgotten that this company was once the Corrections Corporation of America? When we pass the courthouse, will we remember that it is no longer a civic building because CoreCivic owns it? And even if we do remember, can the prospect of a fair trial ever be upheld if every conviction benefits the courthouse? Will there be a day when civic is so obsolete a concept that CCA will have to change its name yet again?
Before we go to our closing, there's just something I must do. First is to thank the people for today's program, particularly Rob Spillman, Kim Chan of Penn, and Lou Frobel here as our stage manager. Also the house staff for Cooper Union. But I must ask you to share with me a special gratitude. When this program was in danger of being canceled, this individual stepped up to save it. And she has been a tireless worker at Penn for many years. She is herself a talented writer. And today she collected all the pieces you've heard. She organized the communication with our presenters. She assigned and edited the selections. And she developed the tech support that we relied upon. I'm going to ask Crystal Young to please come forward. And I'm going to ask you to join me in a public thanks to her. For closing, I'd like to offer this brief history of drugs and incarceration, which I've excerpted from a recent article that actually Rosemary sent me. It's from the May 4th, 2017 issue of the London Review of Books. It's a text by Adam Schatz, and he is reviewing a book just published in April by Farrar, Straus and Giroux. It's called Locking Up Our Own, Crime and Punishment in Black America. The author is James Foreman. Nixon, who declared the first war on drugs in 1971, presided over the birth of mass incarceration. But there was a dramatic escalation under Reagan, who launched his own war on drugs in 1982. At that time, less than 2% of Americans considered drugs to be the most important issue facing the country. This was also the year crack arrived, devastating poor neighborhoods, already shaken by the loss of industrial jobs. Rather than expand rehabilitation and treatment programs for addicts, the federal government, under both Republican and Democratic administrations, responded with increasingly punitive measures. In particular, mandatory minimum sentences, police procedures that seem to ignore the Fourth Amendment, which protects against unreasonable searches and seizures, and the use of special weapons and tactics, or SWAT teams, paramilitary units, often advised or run by soldiers who served in America's overseas wars. Like any war, the war on drugs led to profiteering. Police officers made drug busts with an eye to seizing assets, cash, homes, cars, which through revenue sharing agreements with the federal government allowed the police to keep for their own use in department prison administrators and towns where prisons were located. All of them benefited and had considerable investment as a result of that war economy. Again, that's the end of that quote. Sorry, I got a little muddy at the end, but the blurring between the military and the police is a byproduct of the system we've been studying today. And any rhetoric you hear a politician speak about safety needs to be examined. For the safety they talk about is usually an erosion of personal freedom. There is a well-known aphorism attributed to Benjamin Franklin, which states that it was actually written on behalf of the Pennsylvania General Assembly. And it reads, "Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty or safety." He was actually writing about a tax dispute between the General Assembly and the family of the Penns, the largest property owners in the colony of Woods that bears their name, Pennsylvania. At this writing, the legislature was trying to tax the Penn family lands to pay for their frontier defense during the French and Indian War. And of course, the Penn family kept instructing the governor to veto the tax. Franklin felt that this was a great affront to the ability of the legislature to govern. And so he actually meant to purchase a little temporary safety. He meant that very literally. So if you look at the letter from which the aphorism is drawn, it's pretty clearly about money, and it's about governmental power. But you see, that aphorism has been appropriated and taken and reversed and used for other causes. Liberty and safety in it are abstractions until we define them. As Marie Ponceau and Rosemary Dean have taught us, the amazing thing about abstract language is that the human brain pulls abstraction through it, and we concretize it for our own personal comprehension. And this phenomena leaves most aphorisms open to particular uses as the reader sees fit to use them. You think about horoscopes, have the same thing. You can read anything you want into them because they're so abstract. Much of what our program has been today is isolating language that is both concrete and abstract so that the two forces can influence each other. And Tim Small's amazing rendition of the CoreCivic annual report teaches us precisely where the distortions between the abstract and the concrete occur. I hope in closing that the program we presented has maybe lodged a seed in your own field of question. And I'm going to urge you not to think of this program as a substitute for your own activism, your own challenge to the system. It is not. We are no experts. This jury that you see before you is a jury of lay people, and as such, we will now forego any Q&A period. Our answers, we believe, reside in you. If I tell you this program does not count toward your activism, then please join us in asking just what small action each of us can take to challenge the system that has snared us in its trap. You may have found some disturbing questions open today, and we will end with a video. As a writer myself and one interested in education, I'd like to propose an echo of some of the questions you may have heard. Where is the evidence for the educational claims being made by CoreCivic? Is there any evidence? Whose research is it based upon? What metrics are being used? While incarcerated, or now housed in facilities for formerly incarcerated people, we see images of men and women receiving instruction in classroom settings, but what are they learning? If we are to get concrete, how many of this population are getting an education? Is it 50%, 25%, 10%? Or is the figure more like less than 1% of men and women held behind bars in our country? And when they are loaned or have to buy the caps and gowns that you'll see in photographs, and they hold those diplomas, where are they graduating from? With degrees in what? And who will we trust to substantiate these claims of education? To me, there is only one metric: proof of the precise number of human lives that have been restored to enter a meaningful share of the world's work on pay scales on par with the rest of us. That is the economic hope on which all other hopes are based, be it community, family, citizenry. We wish to thank you as a group for your time and your consideration, and please know we look forward to attending the ideas and actions you generate on this subject. And now we'll go to the video and close. Thank you.
There's no video. There was